Anelle and Jihoon, Part 44. Don't miss out on the latest updates. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and share for more exciting content. She wiped down the counter for the last time, her movements slow, distracted. There was something quiet in her today. Hope? Dread? She couldn't name it. She hadn't heard from Taeho again. Their last call had ended with laughter. He had sounded alive, like the man she met, not the shadow she'd worried he had become. But now, it had been silence. Back in Seoul, Jihoon sat in his study, bent over his phone, scrolling through dozens of messages, desperate for one name. He had read the headline nearly 2 hours ago, but somewhere across the world, in a loud, crowded terminal in Istanbul, Taeho sat near a charging outlet. He looked exhausted, his coat damp, his hair disheveled from the sprint between gates. He had missed his original flight due to a layover delay in Seoul. He had had to switch planes. Istanbul was never part of the plan. Sitting beside his backpack, Taeho logged into the airport's roaming Wi-Fi, just as his laptop reconnected and flooded with news alerts and messages. The headline caught his eye first. Flight KJ-142 crashes, no survivors. He blinked, his stomach dropped. That was supposed to be his flight. Quickly, he opened his message history. A half-sent text to Jihoon blinked, stuck in Wi-Fi limbo. Taeho, 1 hour ago. Bro, I'm stranded in Istanbul, switched flights. KJ-142 left without me. I'll keep you posted when I board next. It had never gone through. He opened his voicemail app. The first voice he heard was Jihoon's. Shaken, frantic, whispering like he was holding his breath. Jihoon, voicemail. Taeho, please, tell me you're not on that plane. Just say something, anything. God, don't do this to me, man. Taeho's hand trembled. He immediately called. The phone rang once. Jihoon? There was a pause on the other end, then a breath. Taeho? It's me. I missed the flight. I had to switch in Istanbul, delayed. I'm okay. The line was quiet for another beat. Then Jihoon exhaled, a long, hard breath like he hadn't let one out in hours. You son of a... Jihoon choked, laughing, halfway between fury and relief. Do you know what I've been thinking? I thought I lost you. You almost did, Taeho replied quietly. But not yet. From the corner of the terminal, a boarding call echoed. He looked toward the gate. I'll be there in 5 hours, he said. Meanwhile, across Munich, Nihal stood at her window. She stared out into the fading light, unaware that the man who had once vanished without a word was now flying straight back to her, this time without hesitation. Meanwhile, across Munich, Nihal stood at her window. She stared out into the fading light, unaware that the man who had once vanished without a word was now flying straight back to her, this time without hesitation. Taeho's plane touched down at 10:02 p.m. under a moonlit Munich sky. The airport had thinned to silence, its echoing halls a contrast to the storm in his chest. With his coat buttoned and a leather bag slung over his shoulder, he moved like a man with a mission. No delay, no distractions. As he exited the terminal and stepped into the crisp Bavarian air, he pulled out his phone and dialed. The screen glowed faintly. Jihoon. Hyung, Taeho said as soon as the line picked up. Taeho? Jihoon's voice was a mixture of exhaustion and relief. I just landed. Munich. I'm in the car now. I booked a small villa outside the city, Taeho said, settling into the back seat of his rental car, his eyes scanning the night through the window. There was a pause. Jihoon chuckled lightly. Still the same soldier? Taeho's voice dropped. Some wars are worth returning for. Later that night, once Taeho had unpacked and the fire in the villa had softened into a quiet glow, he sat on the edge of the bed in the silence of his room. The wind rustled outside the frosted windows, but his mind was somewhere else, someone else. He stared at her name on the screen for a long while before pressing call. Hello? Her voice came through, gentle, half asleep. Taeho leaned back, smiling faintly at the sound. Did I wake you? She paused, then teased. Maybe. Or maybe I was just pretending to sleep so I wouldn't text you first. He laughed softly, running a hand through his hair. Then I'm glad I interrupted. A soft hum passed between them. "How are you, Taiho?" she asked genuinely. He took a breath. "Tired, a little numb, but hearing your voice helps." "You sound distant," she said, not accusing, just noticing. "I've been feeling that way," he admitted, "like I've been standing outside my own life, watching it." There was a pause. "I know that feeling too well," she whispered. "Today was my last shift at the cafe. I handed in the apron, took one last look around, and it hit me. Everything's about to change." Taeho straightened slightly. "Last shift? What do you mean?" "I got the job. The nursing contract in Frankfurt. I start in 3 weeks. I'll be moving soon." The line went quiet for a moment. When Taeho finally spoke, his voice had changed. Lower, more weighted. "Frankfurt." "Yeah," she said. "It's good news, right?" "It is," he replied. "I'm happy for you, just surprised." "I didn't mean to drop it like that," she said, then smiled nervously. "You know," he said quietly, "for weeks I kept replaying everything I said, everything I didn't say, wondering when exactly I pushed you out without knowing." Her voice cracked. "Maybe I pulled away too soon. Or maybe," he said, "we both got scared." She nodded softly, though he couldn't see it. "I was going to ask you something," he said, trying to lighten the mood. "Your address." "My email?" she teased, trying to smile through the tension. "No," he said. "Real. I want to post you something." "What if it gets delayed?" she teased again, but there was a hint of warmth in her voice now. "Then I'll deliver it myself," he said, so quietly that her breath caught. She didn't speak for a long moment. The morning air was sharp and fresh, the sky dusted in pale gold as sunlight began to stretch across the Bavarian hills. At the villa, Taiho stood in front of the mirror, fastening the last button of his crisp shirt. He looked different, less guarded, less tired. There was something lighter in his reflection. Maybe it was the voice he'd heard last night, or maybe it was the quiet decision he'd made after the call ended. He picked up the bouquet he'd bought at a nearby early opening flower shop. With her address still open on his phone, Taiho set out before the city fully woke. Munich's streets were still calm, bathed in early light and the hush of a Saturday morning. He drove carefully, rehearsing and unrehearsing what he might say when she opened the door. Would she smile? Would she cry? Would she close the door? He parked just around the corner from her flat, choosing to walk the last stretch. The cold bit at his fingers, but the bouquet felt warm in his hands. Heart pounding harder with every step. When he reached the building, he paused, right at the door. His thumb hovered over the bell, suddenly unsure. "Taiho," she whispered, breath catching. He held up the bouquet, a crooked smile on his lips. "You said I shouldn't let the post delay things." She stared, her eyes already glistening. "You're here?" "I didn't want to text, or email, or call again. I just wanted to see your face when I showed up." Nihal lowered the mug slowly, one hand reaching to her chest like her heart needed steadying. "How long have you been in Munich?" He stepped closer carefully. "Since last night." "You flew all the way from Korea?" Her voice was a mix of shock and something soft, something hopeful. She laughed through a tear, brushing at her cheek. "I brought flowers," he said sheepishly. "I read somewhere it helps soften the blow of unexpected visitors." "They're beautiful," she whispered, then met his eyes. "You're beautiful." A breeze moved through the quiet street, but neither of them noticed. The world felt still, just for them. She took a step forward. He mirrored her. "You really came," she murmured, shaking her head like she couldn't believe it. "For me." "I had to," he said. "I couldn't stay away anymore." Her smile widened. "This is crazy." "The best kind," he grinned. Then she opened the door wider, heart racing now, full of something new and bright. Nihal stood for a moment, hands pressed together to still the rush of emotions inside her. Then, with a quick laugh, she darted to the bathroom. "Give me a second," she called, disappearing around the corner. Taiho chuckled, setting the bouquet down on the table, his fingers tracing the petals absent-mindedly. He had imagined this moment 100 different ways, but nothing felt as real as being here now.